And so, through the miracle of modern technology, sometimes not so modern technology, I am excited to bring on my friend Neil Lester, who is a professor at ASU, as well as is the founder of Project Humanities, which we're going to talk a little bit about later on, as well as some other fun stuff.
Hello, hello, hello.
Well, good evening, and how are you doing?
I am splendid. Thanks for asking. Glad to be here tonight.
Indeed.
Yes.
So excited to have you on. And so I do want to show, let's see, Project Humanities.
Okay.
Now, I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but the logo does come to play in one of the questions. So I at least want people to see the logo.
Yep. And I have pictures also that I'll hold up in case when that question comes up. Yes.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
All right. So now when we do trivia a little differently than some other places, that it's not about just what you know and just going through the trivia. We actually will go through when we're done, we'll go through the questions and answers. And so that way you'll know more than when you came in this evening, which I think is pretty cool. That's all about education as opposed to just what you know, now get out.
I like that. Very smart. Thank you.
So, and actually the whole idea of trivia comes up a little bit later in the music history. So,
okay.
So now for trivia, you can keep track of things either in the chat session. You can, my friend Will sent me a little note, a photo of him keeping track on his leg with a Sharpie. So you can do whatever you like. We are not passing any judgment here. And so let's get ready for some cool trivia. All right. Question 1. ASU Project Humanities brings together individuals and communities to do 3 things. Now, what are those 3 things? A, talk, listen, and connect. B, eat, drink, and be merry. Or C, eat, pray, and love. Now, all 3 of those are very good answers, but only one of them is for Project Humanities. So, oh my gosh, we have Ryan in the house. All right. Nice. We're getting all kinds of folks. All right. So question 2, Project Humanities is celebrating what anniversary this year in 2021? Is it A, 6 months, B, first year, or is it C, its 10th anniversary? And even Doreen is joining us this evening.
Hello, hello. I know that name.
Doreen. I look so forward to getting a chance to see her out and about. Oh my gosh. I'm seeing so many faces.
She is everywhere too, especially.
And I love that she's doing so much virtually. She's like zipping all over the globe.
All over the globe. And telling people about it too. So I like the fact that she's not just like doing it and then hiding under a bush. She's sharing and posting and letting people know that she's doing great stuff. So thank you, Doreen.
Right. That's like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
Putting me to shame. I'm like, I'm not doing
reminding us what we're missing. Well,
exactly.
Thank you for coming to our event recently, Doreen.
All right. Question 3. ASU Project Humanities host an annual Hacks for Humanity Hackathon for social good. What is a hackathon? Oh, and for some reason we have numbers here. Nope. All right. An opportunity to break.
We can translate numbers to letters. We can do that.
I'm just wondering. I think the answers may actually be alphabetical, so we'll see. All right. So 1 or A, depending on how you take a look at it.
Okay.
An opportunity to break into others' privacy settings to wreak havoc. Oh my gosh. That does not sound like social good at all.
Well, it depends on which side of good you're on.
True. All right. Question 2 or B. A 3-day multidisciplinary event that brings together techies and non-techies to create solutions to common social challenges. Or 3 or C. An award show to showcase the best and brightest kitchen knife collections. So only one of those is right.
Mm-hmm.
So here is your chance to figure out, what is a hackathon? Oh, and somehow we missed. Oh, there we go. I hit too fast. All right. ASU Project Humanities is A, a university course at ASU. B, a special volunteer opportunity for building homes in underserved communities. C, a multiple award-winning initiative at Arizona State University that reaches across disciplines, generations, and professions. So what do you think ASU Project Humanities is? And here we are at that kind of hump on question 5. Oh, and I guess we're back to alphabets. ASU Project, maybe I was having too many cocktails beforehand. Maybe that was my problem. All right. So ASU Project Humanities hand graphic embodies this concept. A, how elementary school children draw the Thanksgiving hand turkey. B, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet as the hand in matters of mutual progress, from Booker T. Washington. Or C, you just have no idea why it has that logo. So just let you know, C is not a good answer. I just want to throw that out there.
But it's an honest answer, though.
It is an honest answer.
It would be an honest answer, and we do like honesty.
Completely.
Yes.
All right. Question 6. ASU Project Humanities has created programming about what they call Humanities 101. What is Humanity 101? A course offered by many colleges like English 101, History 101, or Math 101. Is it B, a series of trainings that teach volunteers how to build small homes through Habitat for Humanity? Or C, a virtual and real toolbox of events, strategies, and programs promoting the 7 disciplines: compassion, respect, integrity, kindness, forgiveness, empathy, and self-reflection? All right, moving on to question 7. ASU Project Humanities, for the past 6 years, has done outreach.
Has done outreach. Yeah, we got the grammar since this is grammar day.
Oh, there come the grammar police. Okay, I guess.
Has done outreach. Yes.
All right. So A, give unsheltered individuals a home. B, give unsheltered individuals a job. Or C, give unsheltered individuals some basic human kindness along with shoes, toiletries, and clothing. And on to question 8. In Project Humanities' 6 years of doing homeless outreach, the most requested item among their clients and unsheltered individuals across the country is A, toothpaste and toothbrush, B, deodorant, or C, socks. Which of those is the most requested item and homeless outreach? All right. In order to join the ASU Project Humanities effects, people need to.
I think that should be efforts.
I know. I was like, I think that's what I said that. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Right. Efforts. Yeah. Yeah. Effective efforts. We can
there we go. Effective efforts. Nice save. Right. Okay. A, do they need to pay $1 million up front before they even do anything? B, commit to 100 volunteer hours a week. Or C, let Project Humanities know how they will participate by sending a message to Project Humanities at asu.edu or by calling 480-727-7030. And I have a feeling there may be operators waiting for your call at this very moment, not to give an answer away, but
they are standing by. In case that's the answer.
In case that's the answer, exactly. So you might want to call and find out if that's the answer and get involved. All right. Question 10. What is the phrase used to describe Black memorabilia or ephemera that relates to African American history? A, blackamoor. B, offensive. C, Black Americana. All right. While you're getting your answers kind of all ready and zhuzhed, we're going to go into a little bit of some Arizona music history. So sadly, we recently had Rich Hazelwood, who passed away, who was the owner of the Celebrity Theater. Now, this theater opened up 68 years ago. Originally in 63, it opened up as kind of a conference center, but then also quickly opened as a theater the next year and has hosted such amazing shows as George Carlin, Joe Cocker, Carol Channing, Diana Ross, Duran Duran, Sammy Davis Jr., Chris Rock, David Bowie, B.B. King, Olivia Newton-John, Etta James, Fleetwood Mac, and John Waters. Now, after extensive renovations back in 95, they actually reopened their doors. And it was this man, Rich Hazelwood, who passed away. And so his daughter will be taking over the running of the theater. Now, he also owned a little bar here in town called Hazelwood's, which was actually that was actually the first bar trivia I went to here in Arizona. And it was this long litany of questions that I bombed on. And they didn't go, they just said the answer was A, no discussion or anything. And I was like, well, this is no fun. And so I realized that once I did trivia, I was going to put my own spin on it and actually share those stories, because that was more important to me was, well, why is that the answer? If I don't know that's the answer, explain it to me. Now, one things I do love, and the Celebrity Theater is an amazing venue, and still to this day, it has a revolving stage, as well as no seat is more than 70 feet away from that stage. So it's very intimate. And so you really feel like they're performing just for you. All right. So who's ready for some answers? And Ryan is just kind of starting to list a litany of folks who he has seen performing there. You know, there's been so many folks that have performed there.
It's a great space. I didn't realize that John Waters is, well, I guess is that the John Waters who's the television
and film director and everything else. So
yes,
yeah.
But he's also a performer, or
well, he did. He took to the stage and read some of his editorials from his book and things like that.
Okay. Excellent. I like that idea that it doesn't always have to be music. It can be other ways of performing on that stage.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a variety of things, and you know, and I love me some John Waters.
Yes.
But
yes.
That may come into play later on in our discussion, so we shall see.
Yes. All right.
All right. So if you're ready for some answers, all right. ASU Project Humanities brings together individuals for what? A, talk, listen, and connect.
Or we say a shorthand for that is TLC. You want a little TLC.
Very nice.
Some tender loving care, Project Humanities, talking, listening, connecting. And we think that there's so many ways in which talking, listening, connecting is undervalued and unappreciated. But when there's a crisis or something that challenges us, then we somehow value it then. And we want to value it all the time and bring people together to do stuff.
And a wide variety of things, which is great.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not always the same thing.
No, we have world cafes around dismantling rape culture. We have symposia for high school students on cultural appropriation, cultural awareness. We do film screenings and discussions. We just had one that Doreen was at last week called Mr. Soul, a partnership with PBS. So if we have no shortage of creative ideas, and I want to add that we don't just like expect people to come from the outside to the campus. We go out into the communities around us. So we will do things in church spaces that have nothing to do with church, or religion. We'll do things in art spaces. We do things in museums. You know, shout out to Tempe History Museum for hosting pre-COVID our film screenings. We go to libraries. So anywhere there are people, we will go. We're waiting to get into barbershops and beauty shops.
Oh,
yes.
Fun.
Yes.
And actually, during COVID, that might actually be doable because of the number of folks.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're still very timid about wanting to compromise any integrity of anybody's health, and that I'll speak to a little bit later when we talk about our homeless outreach.
All right.
Yes.
So, question 2: Project Humanities is celebrating what anniversary this year?
That's it.
10 years. That's pretty amazing.
The big one. Well, you know, in the big scheme of things, it's not 50, it's not 100, but in this climate where humanities more broadly is often the first thing to go on chopping blocks, that's really a good thing, because we still, as a society, haven't quite come to grips with the fact that humanities matters. We can't even define it, much less determine if it matters. Arts, people know about a performance or a production or a something, but when it comes to humanities, that's how we try to define it, as talking, listening, connecting, rather than saying, well, it's about these disciplines. And that really has been an effort to demystify and to show that you can be, you can have humanist principles no matter what your discipline is and whether or not you go to college. You can be a decent human being. So it's not about what it means to be human, but it means how are we human? And even as I say that, you know, I've learned that talking about humans is also part of privilege, because humans are also animals, but yet we have all kinds of privileges that quote and unquote animals don't have. So that's a whole different conversation we can have. But that's the kind of conversations that we try to have critically, that challenge us as the planners, but also we hope those who come to our events and programs.
So how did Project Humanities start?
Well, the short version is that I served as Dean of Humanities, and it was a time not unlike this one, where there's an economic downturn and people start looking at what can be cut, what's not essential. And humanities was perceived as not essential by lots of colleges, especially around, you know, subjects like philosophy and subjects like languages. And so this was an effort on the part of ASU to say, well, we're not going to go with that. We are going to make humanities more robust. And I chose the public humanities strategy, which is to take humanities to the people and bring the people to humanities, so that we are talking and demystifying it and doing it and then naming it. And 10 years later, we are here doing stuff that I could have never imagined 10 years ago. Started off as a week of programming, then it went to a semester, and then it went to 9 months. And now we do things even during the summer. Even during the pandemic, we started a podcast club. So it's been wonderful to be on this ride and to imagine what the next 5-10 years might be. Even with the pandemic, we've been able to do some things we could have never imagined, as have many people. But
right.
With us, yes.
All right. So Project Humanities hosts an annual hackathon. And what is a hackathon?
Yeah.
And it is a 3-day multidisciplinary event that brings together techies, non-techies to create solutions to common social changes.
And this will be our 8th year in 2021, and 2020, of course, we were this close to canceling it because we couldn't do it in person. It's really a lot of fun to do in person. You know, it's bringing people together who don't necessarily know each other or work together, putting them in these random teams, and then giving them a task. And then by the end of 3 days, they come up with these products. Based on parameters that we've given them. So they do all kinds of things like a business proposal. We have workshops. We have fun things like midnight disco parties. There's lots of food. There's lots of networking. And we were really, as I said, this close to canceling it, but we decided to do it virtually. And while it wasn't exactly the same as in person, it opened up possibilities so that we had attendees from 4 states and 14 countries. And we were able to keep people there engaged for 3 days. Now, you're not glued to your screen or your laptop, but you are put in these groups, and the groups are working. And at the end of this, they all come together and present their products, and we give them great prizes that have been provided by our sponsors through sponsorships, like, through State Farm and Amazon and Silicon Valley Bank, and all these folks have gotten involved. And we build it around something that's come up later, Humanity 101. We build it around that. And it's been wonderfully exciting. We'll do it again in October, and it will be virtual, which means that anybody across the globe can participate in it. And you don't have to be a techie. That's the thing, because people say hackathon and they immediately start saying, well, I don't do that. And I'm saying that's precisely who we want.
Exactly. It's that collaboration, and you get as many eyes on the idea as you can. And what comes out is this much more faceted gemstone than went in.
Yes. And it's one of those things where you could never have created that by yourself. Doesn't mean you can't create anything by yourself, but you could have never created that by yourself.
Right.
Especially when teams, come together. It's also a challenge because sometimes the teams don't come together. Sometimes we don't get along with family, but it's a wonderful way of looking at collaboration and networking and creating some new collaborations and new networks. It's really fun. You should consider it. And it's intergenerational, and it's from high school students all the way up to retirees. So everybody can have, and if you don't want to do the competition, you can come as a volunteer or as a mentor. It's really exciting and fun. And it's free to those who attend. Let's not forget that. And it's free, yes, for those who attend. Yes, it's not free for us. We're putting it on, but it's free for those who attend.
All right. So Project Humanities is C, a multiple award-winning initiative at ASU University that reaches across disciplines, generations, and professions.
That's it. So it's not just about people who do languages or people who do philosophy or history or religious studies. Everybody has a place in the Project Humanities arena, and we invite people. And notice those hands there. That's a clue to one of the answers later. Yes.
Well, and so from one of the hackathons, a couple of years ago, ASU did an Ignite, which Ignite is a thing where it's like, you have X number of slides that are preset and they fire. And one of the young men was talking about the hackathon and the product they thought of.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's interesting you would mention that, because in our virtual one this last October, we actually had a slideshow karaoke where we did a version of that at midnight.
Oh, and that is so much fun.
It is tons of fun. When it was in person, we did yoga. We had lots of sponsors who did, chocolate cake night. I mean, pizza night at midnight. It's not the healthiest thing, but it was a fun thing that we do once a year. So I'm glad to hear that. And there are lots of hackathons. We're not the only hackathon at ASU. What we are, however, is the only humanities group that's doing a hackathon. Typically it's engineering or business. And so we are already crossing those boundaries to bring people together, to be more entrepreneurial.
Right. And that's really what he was talking about, was just that process of having all these interdisciplinary folks sitting down together and looking at a problem and the changes they went through. So
Oh, the stuff that has come out of that's been amazing. The very first one was, which was almost 8 years ago when we started this, was a group that considered themselves sort of the misfits because nobody wanted them on the team. So they formed their own team. And there were like 2 undergraduates, ASU, and then there were 2 community people, one a professor at Phoenix College, another epidemiologist for the state, biologist, mathematician. And they created this app that allows the filtering of self-harm or suicidal tweets. And it filters it in such a way that you can connect the person who's sending that stuff out to a trained professional in hopes of saving a life. That's what we're not talking about, give me an app that can show me where the potholes are or how to find my car in a parking lot. This is about saving lives. There are others that have to do with parents who are able to communicate with their children who have attention deficit. I mean, these are things that are real things that come out of personal stories that people bring to the table or looking at what's happening in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So Project Humanities has created programming, and they call it Humanities 101. And it is a virtual and real toolbox of event strategies and programs promoting the 7 principles of compassion, respect, integrity, kindness, forgiveness, empathy, and self-reflection.
See, imagine that. I mean, in a world where these are perceived as desserts, we look at these as the menu. And people may have seen this or will. We have these magnets sort of everywhere when you come to our events. Oops, let me get it on there. And it's not a course. It's not it's a series of programs. And I also want to remind people that this is not faith-based. Because sometimes we look at these and people think, oh, this must be some religion. You're trying to convert me. That is not what we're doing. What we're trying to do is to offer people the possibility of having faith in humanity and the possible goodness that counters some of the headlines that we see. And we also want this to be a drumbeat so that we don't have to wait until there's a 9/11 or until there's a George Floyd murder or the murders that came after that to sort of recognize how these values exist in one form or another across cultures. So how can we celebrate that? How can we have a movement where people are actually consciously thinking of these principles in ways that are not just about your personal enrichment, but also if you're in an organization, is your organization practicing these principles and how it deals with customers and clients?
And getting rid of that othering.
That's it. That's it. And even our homeless outreach, we call that Humanity 101 in action. You know, we have a theme song that we're actually working through some legalities of so that we recognize that you can't have a movement without a theme song. And I would love for those who are attending, no, you can't. You can't have the women's movement. You can't have the feminist movement. You can't have the environmental. There's a song out there, civil rights movement. So we have one too. And we're working through some legalities. But there's an opportunity for everybody to sign this, Marshall. And it doesn't cost you anything except time to sign it. And I want to make sure that I leave it up there so that people can see it. You can go to our website and sign it there. And it just, and then we do a little map to see people all over the globe who have taken the pledge. That's all we're asking, because people are often saying, well, what can I do? Well, the one thing you can do is sign our pledge and then live the principles. That's what it says here. Sign the pledge, live the principles. Everybody can do that on some level. And it's interesting because they're not weighted. Some may find compassion, empathy. Dionne Warwick said what the world needs now is love, sweet love. We could say what the world needs is a little more compassion or a little more empathy or some forgiveness, integrity, kindness, respect, and ultimately self-reflection. All this stuff about bias and privilege and all those things can fall under this umbrella of Humanity 101.
Now, Vera points out, I may have missed a question, so I'm going to go back and see if that is indeed. I'm glad people are policing me on Grammar Day.
Yeah, there could be worse things. Yes.
Oh, indeed.
Yes.
So that hand graphic, the logo for Project Humanities, embodies what concept?
Yes, that's it. Separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand. That's loosely borrowed from Booker T. Washington and Up From Slavery. And what we like here is that, yes, initially it had that kind of look as the Thanksgiving turkey hand, but then we added more people to it. There we go. Added more people to it. So it's people moving in a direction. And we've carried that motif through a lot of what we do because we think that it's not as if people can't do anything by themselves. What it means is that we can be better and we can get more things done potentially when we're all on the same page.
Right.
So yes, one finger can lift something, but imagine having the whole hand. So that's what it means. Separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand. And the operative word is we can be. It doesn't say we have to be. It says we can be.
All right. So for the past 6 years, Project Humanities has done outreach to downtown communities with the goal of giving unsheltered individuals some basic human kindness along with shoes, toiletries, and clothing.
Yep. And this is obviously pre-COVID, but the idea is volunteers come from all over the Valley. And we were there from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 every other Saturday morning with about 150 to 200 clients. We are their personal shoppers. and we give them items that are sort of everyday items. We're not promising people a job. We're not promising people we can get them a house. What we can do sometimes is connect them to other organizations. So we have an expanding network of people who can provide services. We know which lane we're in, and we like to stay in that, and then just recommend that people go other places. We don't do food. Occasionally somebody will donate, granola bars, but we're not into the business of feeding people. And it's really been disheartening for us, and Doreen has been a volunteer with us. It's been disheartening that we can't go out and do it in the way that we did it pre-COVID, but it's just too easily compromising of other people's health, especially those that don't have the same options that we have, to be able to social distance. So what we are doing, however, is in our 10th year, oops, I just gave an answer away if people were listening. In our anniversary, we are continuing a modification of that. So we'll have some challenges that will still allow us to do the work, but to do it safely. Okay? Yes. And I am going to step off the screen just a second because I have other people in my house and I want to close the door so that we don't have multiple conversations going on.
All right, then I'll read this one slow.
You go right ahead and talk about
Well, and this one relates to what he was just talking about, what Neil was talking about. And so in the 6 years we've been doing the homeless outreach, what is the most requested single item from their clients? And it's socks.
Yes. And we are so pleased that we have a partnership with Bomba Socks. And some of you may have heard of Bomba Socks. They are really, really, really quality socks. And for every pair that they sell, they give X number of pairs to organizations doing this kind of homeless outreach. And we have been wonderfully pleased with that partnership. And that's one thing that we can always have is socks. Now, they're not always fancy socks, but they're practical socks. They are quality socks. But yes, people would think there are other things, but socks, that's the number one thing that folks are asking for.
So, and that's great that you're able to, I love Bomba, that you're working with them to get those out there. That's great. And
there are other organizations doing it as well. And that's what we like too. Like right now, we're partnering with Arizona Jews for Justice. And they are,
oh, nice.
We meet there, we meet at the warehouse in Tempe. We do our sorting, our sizing, and then we load up Austin Davis, who is a former student and a volunteer with Project Humanities Outreach. He goes down and distributes those to those clients who can more easily get that without coming together and clustering and violating any kind of social distancing.
Nice.
So no success without collaboration. There's that whole image of separate as the fingers. We couldn't do it, but you partner with other people who can.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. So people are hearing so many great things. How can they get involved with Project Humanities? Well, and it's indeed by either sending an email off to Project Humanities at asu.edu or giving a call to all those operators standing by, just waiting for your phone call.
That's right. And the first thing you'll have to do is find a rotary phone, because that's
Right. It's so funny. Actually, I had a first grade teacher reach out to me and say, do you have one of those? She's like, I would love to show my students one of those, because they don't believe there was ever this thing that didn't have buttons that you had to press like that on it.
Yeah. And I guess they would be very surprised if they saw phone booths now, or the phones that are on the wall that you pick up, and you probably have those. That to me would be a fascinating collection, but I'm not going in there. I've got enough stuff around me now. I'm not starting a telephone collection. But I can imagine that, in typewriters. I can imagine those being exciting collectors, passions also.
Well, at one point I had a vacuum cleaner collection, which those things are large. So I kind of stopped that.
Okay. And I can't imagine those being on shelves.
Oh, no. They take up floor space as well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. But they're practical, though, if they worked. Yeah. But no, typewriters just have that kind of look that feels a little cliche for English teachers and literature folks. But this notion of phones could be very interesting. Thinking about that.
You might have to get another office, the adjacent office.
Thinking about that. Okay. All right. Yeah. See, I am learning something. Yes.
All right. Now, I do have a request from Sarah that we show the information once again so that people can write down that Project Humanities email or that phone number.
Yes.
And you don't need to use a rotary phone. You can use a modern cell phone.
Right.
That's why they do the hackathon. So that way they've been able to connect cell phones to that number as well.
Yes, the technology is amazing. And, you know, I am one of those who looks at those and monitors them. So I'll likely be the one responding back to you.
All right.
Yes.
And so our last question of the night, what is the phrase used to describe Black memorabilia or ephemera that relates to African-American history? C, Black Americana. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's kind of a video answer. So let me play this. This is an intro to a video that you did. Mm-hmm. And so let's roll that out.
I started this collecting back in 1989, quite accidentally. I had engaged in some house hunting with my newborn and my spouse, and it was at the University of Alabama. And as our white realtor was taking us into professional neighborhoods, which was coded for white neighborhoods, I started seeing images of mammy jars and mammy figurines just sprinkled around some of those homes. And I was actually quite distracted because I was just surprised to see them, not in a kind of collection, but rather just kind of integrated into their kitchens. And that's interesting, as someone else has pointed out, is the fact that they're in these places of intimacy and regularity. But it stunned me because I hadn't seen them. And then I started to see them more often. And as the more I started to see them, I started to wonder what was going on with these things in homes, not in the homes that I lived in and had lived in all my life. And I started to sort of collect them, to sort of study them. And as I started to collect them, I started to look for them. And it didn't take much to be in the Deep South to find what I was looking for. And I would find those in Goodwill stores, thrift stores, antique stores, yard sales, and the collection just expanded. I started looking first at the most grotesque stuff, and then just started seeing anything that was brown. Now, this was at the same time that I was teaching African American literature. So I was always talking about representation and always talking about images. So these just became these supplements to the literary text that I was teaching as a scholar of African American literature. So I was interested initially in those grotesque things, the things that were just, to me, the most overtly grotesque. With the exaggerated lips, the black skin, the contorted bodies, the bodies being eaten by alligators or chased by tigers. Those felt to me the most grotesque. What I have since learned in being in those spaces where these items are is that not everybody sees those as grotesque. Some have asked me if I was getting those things because they were cute. And it was an opportunity to remind people that I wasn't getting them because they were cute. In many ways, I was getting them because I was so horrified by them that I wanted to study and remember them and to sort of bring them into a space where those who encountered them could also remember and sometimes be introduced to the horror of those stereotypes and caricatures that still live in people's minds today.
So, and I know we're going to have a little bit more of a conversation about that, but I know several people have been chatting about how this is the first time they've got all the questions right.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I hope these are fans.
So kudos to all of you.
Thank you. That means that you know something about us and you can go out and help tell our stories now. That's the caveat. Now that you know, I want you to help us tell our story. Because there's a lot that we can say, but you know people that we don't know and go into spaces that we don't go into. So please, please, please share our stories. We're doing good work, I think.